Hey guys, this is Danny Boy. So as you can see, I have finally laid my hands on the Widow. I figured you guys would like to see how the weapon has changed in this game, so I was quick to get this target practice video out. I pretty much just found it. Also, before anyone asks, I found the Widow on Thessia in about the middle of the game. And so we now have the full suite of single-shot sniper rifles, so why don't we compare the Widow to the Mantis and then the Javelin. So first, it is much heavier than the Mantis. It has about the same capacity, but that is actually misleading. The Widow has 2 less shots in reserve than the Mantis. The Widow has 7 shots in reserve, whereas the Mantis has 9. So it's definitely a good idea, just like the other one-shot sniper rifles, to mod it for increased capacity. Ideally. So, but beyond that, it is essentially the same, it simply does more damage. Compared to the Mantis, or rather the Javelin, the Widow is pretty much exactly the same beyond, again, it has 7 shots in reserve versus the Javelin's 9, but the Javelin also has, as I mentioned in my Javelin target practice episode, and if you want more info on the Javelin, you can check that out, but the Javelin has a couple of built-in mods. It can innately see targets through cover and through smoke when scoped, and it allegedly can shoot through light cover innately, but I, again, have not been able to independently confirm that. I have simply been told that. I do know that when it's fired into large cover, into thick cover, it does not penetrate innately. Also, the Javelin has a delay, so the Widow is not encumbered by that. Or I guess you could view the delay as a good thing because you can cancel shots, but again, watch the Javelin video. So here's the Widow. So let's see how accurate this weapon is when fired from the hip at short range. As you can see, pretty accurate. It does have a bit of a spread, but certainly accurate enough to get meat shots, to get center mass shots, and possibly headshots as well, which is pretty much identical to the Mantis. Let's try at medium range, mid-range. So as you can see, it does still have some minor spread. You probably can still get center mass shots well enough, but headshots are problematic at mid-range, which is very similar to both the Mantis and the Javelin. Let's try mid to long range from the hip with the Widow. And at this point, the spread is really becoming a problem. One shot completely missed, one shot hit center mass, but that was a headshot. So, by mid to long range, you really should not be aiming for headshots anymore if you are no-scoping, and should just be aiming for center mass shots. But considering how little ammo this weapon has, you're pretty much wasting your ammo. No-scoping at this range. You really should be getting headshots with the scope. And again, pretty much totally ineffective, but it could have hit. Both of these shots could have hit. It's just a complete gamble. So I only recommend no-scoping with this weapon at point-blank range and short range. I suppose you could go for midsection shots, torso shots at mid-range, but probably not a good idea. You really should be using this weapon scoped at any range, unless you're in some sort of twitch clutch situation where you need to kill a melee target or a flanking target very quickly and just finish them off. Let's try shooting with the scope. If it's like the other single-shot weapons, sniper rifles, it should have perfect accuracy at any range. So as you can see, things are looking good. Dead center. By mid-range. Still excellent. Let's try mid to long range. My mouse is acting up today, it seems. Zoom doesn't want to cooperate. And again, still pretty much perfect accuracy. No noticeable spread. Let's try long range. It's looking good. So as you can see, this weapon is extremely accurate at any range when scoped. In fact, it very well might have perfect accuracy. Obviously, there's a little margin of error because I am not perfect in my aim. So again, this was the Widow. It is very similar to the Javelin and the Mantis. It is simply a very high damage, very accurate, single-shot sniper rifle. Its biggest differences being that it does more damage than the Mantis, but it has less shots in reserve, and identical damage to the Javelin while having less shots in reserve, but the Javelin has the delay, which you might like, I suppose, but you also might not. So it's really just up to your personal preference. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. This was Target Practice.